Welcome, everybody. You've built a map.
We've been through 3 seasons of understanding mental health in the modern world.
Season 4 is building on the understanding.
This season, we're going to go domain by domain: work, home, digital, relationships, identity, and take a look at what it actually means to design the spaces that you're occupying.
Not optimize it, not discipline your way through it.
Create it,
Either you're designing your field.
or something else is.
Welcome to Roaming Mind Season 4.
I'm always like, I'm super excited to talk about this today. And maybe it's just because I'm a nerd and I love talking about this anyway. Uh, I've been doing a lot of thinking about this stuff over the past few days. So it's exciting to be able to get it out. Last episode, we talked about a lot of those open loops that never resolve themselves and how our attention gets affected because of those open loops and how that affects home life. And this week, we're going more towards digital spaces because the rise of digital spaces has contributed significantly to the lack of closure loops. We've seen more attentional issues. It's not a maybe. If we look at statistics, we will see that attentional issues are on the rise. More people are claiming attentional issues now than ever before. There's nothing secretive about it. It's not like I'm bogarting that information, but to me, it's super interesting because when we go home and our attention is pulling in that manner, what is it that we have a tendency to go toward these days? What is it that is grasping? It's not a matter of what's grasping our attention, but what are those attention grasps asking us to? And so it used to be, this was before the era of the computer, you would whip out a notebook and you'd start jotting down your notes. Oh, I got to remember that for tomorrow. And then you close the notebook and then it's done. It's over with. I'm not going to think about a notebook. I'm not going to think about what I wrote in the notebook. That's a form of closing loops. However, digital lives don't actually work that way. It is not separate for a lot of us anymore.
Yeah.
Given the fact that we've got this wonderful thing sitting in our pockets, our digital life goes with us everywhere. It has become a part of us and it has become a part of our identity. I was doing a little bit of research on this week. Identity is not the things that we think we are. Identity is what it is that we do day in and day out. That is what becomes our identity. If we ask somebody who they are, or a lot of them are going to start off with, oh, okay, well, I'm a student. Oh, okay, well, I'm a plumber. I am a CEO. I am a founder. I am a teacher, masochist. Got to keep you on your toes a little bit. It's super interesting because those are not things that we think about. I don't, if I especially with teaching, I won't tell anybody that I don't, well, that's not true. Let me rephrase that. I don't like telling people that that's what I do because that's not a part of my self-thought identity. I teach day in and day out. It is a thing that I do. It is a piece of me. It reinforces the identity. But I do not think of myself as a teacher. This is where identity collapse begins to happen.
That's sorry, we're getting some psychological territories.
Yeah. No. I understand. I get it. It's wild. That's why I was excited. I was like, dude, I've been thinking a lot about this week. It's super fascinating because we don't always think about it that way. We don't always take into account the things that we do, but the things that we do extends into digital spaces. correct? And those open loops exist primarily, mostly these days, if you're working, depending on what job you're doing, in a digital space. The plumber that goes to work and finishes their work and then leaves does not leave with an open loop. It doesn't happen because they fixed it. It's done.
Well, yes.
Unless somebody calls and is like,
Yes.
"Hey, my pipe burst again," that's a whole new loop.
Mm-hmm.
However, if you're operating a computer for a living or to some extent doing work in a digital sphere, chances are you didn't finish your work for the day or you didn't just close out. A lot of us have ongoing projects for that are will only be realized in 10 years and some further than that. And so when those attentional issues happen, all they do is reopen those loops. And so where are we going to go find it? Well, we're going to go find it here. Why? Because that's literally our habitual behavior. This is where I do work. When something is fighting for my attention, but I don't want to deal with the fight for attention, I'm going to some extent, I'm just going to give in and I'm just going to be like, all right, cool. Well, let me go on the phone. Because if I go on the phone, that extends, it's an extension of the mind. It takes over everything and it stops that attentional competing. When I pull out a phone, there's no more competing attention. My attention is on that phone. I talked about this last week too
Yeah,
with my kid, right? Putting down the phone before interacting with them because they know that I am not present if I am doing that.
absolutely.
And I know that that was quite a weighty opening. It's like, well, in the initial 4 minutes, he came out and slapped me upside the head, and you're like, yeah, that happened. But it's okay. It's not the end of the world. It's
Mm-hmm.
not again, we attribute the phone usage to boredom all the time. Oh, well, I was bored, so I picked up the phone. Oh, well, I was bored, so I picked up the phone. But that's not the case. And you see it with students all the time. They have so many open loops that all they want to do is go and bed rot because they don't know what's going to happen. They don't know where it's going to come from. And digital spaces are only exacerbating the problem. It's not that they're creating the issue. That's not the case. They are just exacerbate because if I want to break from the loop, how would I get it before? What are some of the ways? Before we had digital objects, what did we use to break from the loop?
Hobbies, family,
Hobbies.
friends,
If you're lucky, you had a hobby, but not everybody does. Nope. You say
or
families?
I guess they're family, friends.
Okay. Yeah. Friends. See, I was going to be much more on the downward side of things and say, well, we turn to
Yes.
self-medication, um, physical intimacy. What else? I know there's more, and I can't think of them off the top of my head. Gambling, anything, because those stop the open
Hoodlum,
loop.
just being a hoodlum and a nuisance in the neighborhood.
They stop those open loops. Chances are it's hard to go and engage with family when the open loops are running because that requires presence. And if the loops are still running and I can't show up in that way, I'm going to look for something else to close off the loop. Self-medication doesn't, it stops the open loops real quickly by inhibiting that frontal lobe. So I don't think about it as much. And then it's just, okay, I can breathe again. Let me go ahead and work through
Yeah.
this.
Yeah. I think the point you're trying to make is the problem isn't that we always are reaching for our phone or to be in that digital space. It's the point is what's the intent behind it? What are we trying to fill with it? So I think most of the time it's like we have it's a vacuum. You're trying to fill up something within you, going back to the bed, right? And you're like, I have all these things going on in my brain. I can't deal with it. So I am going to scroll, which in a way feeds, going back to those examples that you gave, it kind of replaces those things that people used to do to kind of fill the void in the moment.
So in that moment, and this is kind of the way that I tend to think about it, your attention, that mechanism is looking to stop that loop. You're trying to get your attention to stop focusing on that
Yeah,
loop. It is you have to have your attention somewhere. This one is constantly demanding it, but you don't have any more cognitive resources to give. And so you're just drained out entirely. That stack is super full and the opposite side, they couldn't be further from each other. And you're trying to rectify that middle space. Going and providing your attention to like a loving, caring person is not necessarily going to be the first thing that pops into your mind. You're just gonna be like, I just need to forget about this in whatever way, shape, or form. Please, I I I just need 5 minutes, or I just need 10 minutes. And, maybe it works, maybe it doesn't. In my experience, typically it does not. I'll say 5, 10 minutes, I'll spend 30, and then I will come off and I won't be any better than I was. Maybe I'll be, like, a little bit less hostile, a little bit, but not I'm not angry, but just, like, when I say hot, what do I mean by hostile? Just not approachable, I guess, if that makes sense.
I think what you mean is just I don't want to use down because when you are in the moment working or doing the thing and all those loops that we've talked about are active, you sometimes there is an energy depletion that happens. And sometimes with doing the things, it kind of brings you back to a certain closer to a baseline that you can then all the other stuff don't seem as bad.
Well, it hijacks the attention. It hijacks whatever it was that you were thinking about, stops you, says, "Hey, it's okay. We're gonna divert our focus over here." So for that 20 minutes or 30 minutes or 10 or however long it was that you sat in scroll land or wherever it was that you went to, your attention is there. It is not on the thing. So whatever was building in that current moment, uh, you know, brick by brick by brick stops. It stops building, but it doesn't start going back down. And so, yes, you were successful in stopping the brick work. You're successful there, but you are not successful in reining that back in and bringing it back to some level of, I don't want to say homeostasis. I forget what the other word is that I'm looking for. I want to say it's allostasis, but I could totally be wrong about that. That may make trying to find that balance in there, that dynamic balance, because it's constantly shifting to be able to make do and to keep going forward. That's huge. And it was always interesting. I don't know about you, but I remember growing up and I was always bored.
Hmm.
Maybe that's not even true, but it wasn't really until I got to high school that I discovered what boredom was. Because before that, I knew I pretty much did the same thing every day. I came home from school, I either played with a friend or I played basketball, and then I would play video games at night before I went to sleep. That was it. There really wasn't a lot of time for me to be bored because I didn't care if it was 30 degrees outside. I was going out to shoot basketball. Um, but it's it's really interesting because in those moments, I had nothing but time for me. There was nothing that was intentionally dragging me over here or dragging me over here. It was just me, a basketball, and a hoop in the backyard, and that was it. And I could work out through just about anything that I needed to. Nobody was bothering me. Nobody was looking for me. Nobody was um like, "Hey, you didn't finish this presentation. Can you get that handled by tomorrow?" It didn't happen. And part of that, yes, okay, I'm a kid, but at the same time, I did not have a phone or a digital space to be able to just run away to that would alleviate all of those things. And I figured out a lot about myself in those moments that were quote unquote boredom because I was forced to go out and go do things. Like I said, we know I'm ADHD. There's no part of me that was just going to sit inside and stare at a blank wall for a few hours. However, this is where discomfort lives. No matter what, if I'm not being distracted away from what is pulling my attention, I have to be showing up for it. That would require me to be uncomfortable. There were times when I was angry as shit out there shooting basketball. That's just how it was. Whatever happened that day was enraging. I didn't find it acceptable. So let me go outside and just shoot the ball. And I dealt with every single one of those thoughts, feelings, and emotions while doing that. Because while, yes, I gave myself an attentional focus, it gave a primary focus so that the processing could happen that needed to happen in the background.
Yeah, it makes sense.
I can see you processing over there and I
I'm just
formulating thoughts and I'm
I'm just
just
yeah,
like,
keep going. No,
I'm ready for
keep
the smackdown here,
no,
man.
no, keep going, keep going. I'm listening and readjusting as needed before I speak.
So when we are in those moments where we are outside of a digital space, those attentional pieces keep coming up. It's not like when I go and I pick up a phone and I go into it, my attentional processes stop coming up again because something else is demanding my attention that supersedes everything else.
Mhm.
And so when it comes to processing those deeper held issues of the day or whatever that is going on, I'm not processing them by sitting inside of that digital space. If we do not allow discomfort to exist inside of our lives, when at any point in time we are uncomfortable, we can just whip out a phone. We don't ever have to look at us and who it is that we are, who it is that we are becoming. And that is problematic simply for the very reason of if I don't sit back and think about those kinds of things, this is where we see major bits of identity collapse because you can only operate for so long in an identity crisis before things get severe enough. We see this with mental health conditions regularly. Correct me if I'm wrong. Typically in those moments when identity collapses or when that cognitive load reaches such a point where we can't stand it anymore, it's over. That's when the hammer drops and whatever is inside is forced to then come out. Correct? And it doesn't come out nicely. It doesn't come out in a way that is like, oh, hey, everybody, why don't you just give me five? I'm going to go have an identity meltdown.
Oh,
Does come out in really, really jacked up ways. And I don't need to go into them. We all know because we've all been watching the news. It comes out in ways that is harmful to other people. That's problematic. We need those spaces to be able to go ahead and look out and see and figure out what it is that's driving us deep down because
uh-huh.
something's knocking sometimes.
Mm.
A lot of the time, it's constantly changing, it's constantly evolving. We are constantly becoming new versions of ourselves, whether we care to admit that or not.
Very true.
And so, if we don't just sit with it sometimes, it's problematic. And especially if you're operating in a stretched capacity. So you are, again, student, PhD level research, med student, founders, things like that. You are already operating under this very heavy, heavy cognitive load daily. Those transition periods. Now, let me ask you, how often during those transition periods are you just sitting processing the information?
all the time.
You're just sitting there doing nothing, not picking up a phone, because you're definitely in the minority on that one. Because I know I get to a red light and I'm like, fuck, man, let me go check out what the algorithm has for me today. Yeah.
I mean, yes and no. Sometimes I do that. Sometimes I will be like, okay, I am bored. Okay, this is once again going back to the point that while you were talking, I was going to say because you were talking about. I think well, you make very good points, but I'm wondering if there is a overgeneralization of the digital space because when you were describing being bored and doing physical activities and going to those spaces, isn't that couldn't one argue that that's the same thing that one is doing going to digital space?
No,
Why not?
because of how the attention mechanism works in those specific settings. If I am not attached to a digital uh, space, if I'm not looking at my phone, okay, this is nowhere to be found. It's down here. I'm done. My attention has space to compete. There are things that are going to exist back there that are going to give little nudges. They're going to be like, hey, I'm here. And we can choose to acknowledge them or we can choose not to. This was well handled. This was the idea of psychotherapy. We have certain feelings, we have certain thoughts, we have certain emotions. Let's go ahead and process them. Then you had CBT, which came next, which is all right, this is cool. We're going to look at your your thought processes, and then we're going to alter them, which is super great. I'm all for changing thought processes. But just changing thought processes alone does not fix identity. And then when and that's that's a side tangent, okay? So we're going to park that one for later. But to what you said, which is isn't it the same? Well, when I pick up that phone and I go into attention whatever it is that I'm going on to, that phone has just hijacked every little bit in my attention. So in no way, shape, or form am I getting those tiny little nudges. It's not knocking down at the back of my head going, hey, hey, I'm just here to check in and let you know that you're a piece of shit today, and you better do something about that. And
Uh-huh.
that was real dark and twisted. It doesn't always have to be that way. It can be a little bit more enlightening, like, hey, you should probably go make that phone call to that person so that you can move forward with whatever it was that you were thinking to do. I'm drawing blanks on scenarios. I just
No,
know the
because yes, I agree with what you're saying. I personally feel different. I think maybe that's where I'm having a point of disagreement with the premises, if that makes sense. Because I can still go ahead.
no, 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 no. It's okay. It's okay. I was just gonna ask. Well, then, how do you feel, buddy? No,
How do I feel? Ah! That's how I feel.
right. Why?
There's just too much going on, man. Too much.
There's too much. Okay, so thank you. Yep, keep going. Keep going with that. Please just walk back. Please walk back everything that I just said. It's okay. You can do it, and I would much rather. there, everything is going on. There's too much going on. So what I'm hearing you say currently right now is there are too many open.
No,
Correct.
correct.
Okay, wonderful. So there are too many open loops. That's premise number one. That's what we started out with. That is draining attention. Well, let me ask you: is it easy to study these days, or was it getting more and more difficult the more and more that got piled on?
More, well, obviously more difficult the more and more got.
More difficult. Why? Because more and more is demanded of your attention. Did you rely more or less on digital spaces?
Less actually.
Interesting.
because
Why?
because I knew there's more information to learn, so I made the active choice to to
Mhm,
not participate in, if that makes sense.
mhm. No, 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 no. So there's more information. There's more that you have to do. Okay, that's fine. When you didn't have that to do, did you rely more or less on digital spaces?
When I didn't have more things to do, so when I had less things to do, yeah, I relied more on what's it called, digital spaces.
So that's exactly what we're talking about. It's not the time when we have things to do. We understand the times that we don't have anything to do. When we have stuff to do, that's cool because that's moving the goalpost forward. That's getting us closer to cutting out those open loops and becoming one whole human. But when that's gone, when we go home for the end of the day, we're done. We have too many open loops. So here, let me pull out the phone and go into digital land because again, that hijacks that attention. And then what happens over time, we get the response that you just gave as to how you feel. Does that make sense now?
Mhm.
Now are we on the same page, or are we talking two different, or are we still on opposing, or maybe not opposing, but
Not opposing. Understand it. I understand the point better, but still, I'm still new. I'm still a
I,
mule.
yeah. I admire your resilience. No, just not your stupidity. No,
Wow.
that one was too much. I'm sorry. But I guess the other point that I'm really thinking about in all of that is when the stuff piles on, it's not like you're going out and you're like, let me go sit with myself and do nothing. That's really what I'm talking about. That's what we are not doing as much of
Well, see,
anymore.
it's because I think I'm doing that. That's why I think I'm having a point of I'm
You think
if
you're
that
doing nothing?
no, no,
Is that
I
what you're
said
saying?
I'm doing the thing of, well, I'm stressed, so I'm sitting with myself away from it all, trying to recharge
Mhm.
away from what's it called, like digital space, and do things in the real, going on a walk, going to the gym, doing
Yeah.
things
Mhm.
like that. So I think maybe that's where I need to maybe remove myself and my experiences from it in order to it's not that I don't see the point. I think I'm trying to apply this to myself, and I think that's where the lines are not fully crossing.
But does that not apply to you?
No, it does apply, but I'm saying it's not applying 100%, if that makes sense.
I got you. Yeah, yeah, yeah. So that's why we started all of this off with what we did. It's always going to be to varying degrees.
But
We're talking about mechanisms here. This is the mechanism with which we kind of have that operating system under. And when we know the mechanisms, then we can be on the lookout for it and we can understand, all right, well, this is maybe 30% true for us. This is 50% true. So let me figure out, okay, cool. Let's make this change, and this change. And then it drops that down to 10 or 5%, whatever the case may be. But that's why we have these conversations, is to provide those tools, to provide those mechanisms so that we can take that agency and begin to navigate life on, I hate to say it this way, but navigate it on our terms and not inherited terms or somebody else's terms. I'll be the first one to tell you, I was thinking about that a lot today. This idea of freedom, and not to get too American for everybody, this whole, oh, well, it's America, it's freedom. No, it's not freedom. You don't get to go do whatever the fuck you want. But I would like to be free of other people's constraints. That's what I would
mhm.
like to be free of. Typically, the freedom from other people's constraints, from people who did not earn the right to be able to provide those constraints in the first place, if that makes sense. Um,
Yeah, we're going to some. Yeah, yes, yeah, I agree. So
right. It's probably
I'm being put. I'm going. I was going to be pedantic. It doesn't matter. Keep going.
yeah,
The point
I
being,
got you. Uh-huh. I hear you. And then we get to this really interesting idea because we don't have a lot of time to be able to identify our sense of self. It's not there, it doesn't really exist. But we do have a lot of time that we spend on this social media app, not social media. Maybe it's something else. I don't know. But that then starts to tie into your identity. Why does it start to tie into our identity, Carlos?
because we spend too much time with that, and
Because it's
we
what we begin to do. That's it. And so The other thing, so first of all, number one, I will never begin to blame a computer algorithm. I think that's insane to blame a computer algorithm for one's problems. However,
Mm,
I'm not saying they're perfect. I said blame it for one's problems. That one I will be very careful about how I word.
yeah.
They, don't get me wrong. I'm not saying that algorithms are right. I'm not. That's not what I'm doing. Far from it. However, the blaming of an algorithm for one's problems is that's just mind-boggling to me. Now, that algorithm is not always 100% accurate. It's actually far from accurate. That's kind of crazy. But that algorithm and what it's feeding us and what it is that we end up following, what it is that we end up consuming, ends up being a piece of our identity. We take that with us wherever we go, and whether we choose to admit it or not, it becomes a part of us. We've seen this with social media influencers. They have played a role on the internet for so long that now they are kind of stuck in that digital identity, and it permeates from digital into the real world because that is what they, again, it all comes back to what you do. It's not about what I think. It doesn't matter. I think I'm a chihuahua. Doesn't make me a tiny little dog that barks at everybody that goes by and has a temper management problem. it just, it,
Damn.
it,
Chihuahua just got you straight. He's like, what that dude? What that dude?
I don't know, man. That's what I think of. Why not? It's not, it is their best case of who you are based off of the things that you stopped, screenshotted, watched twice, shared, were looking at midnight, whatever. However, sometimes I'm going to level with you. I've been messing around. I'll put the phone down and it'll go and it'll watch something 4 or 5 times. And that's all I start seeing for the next 2 weeks. And you're like, what the? So clearly it's not accurate. This isn't, and then on top of that, we have everybody only celebrating all of these wonderful congratulatory things, or maybe not congratulatory things, but all uh, only positive things. They're like,
Yeah,
"Oh, we did this. We
personal wins.
raised $20 million over here. Won an award for this over here. I did this." And you're like, "Well, what the fuck, man?
Or
What am I
deeply
doing?"
or deeply very sad, super sad things too. So it's weird.
Yeah, I stay far away. I'll be honest with you. I don't see that shit. Thank God, because I would lose. I'd throw the phone. It would probably be better because I'd throw the phone out the window. If somebody started throwing me a bunch of sad shit, I'd be like, all right, this is no thanks. I don't have time. I don't have the patience for it. And I know that sounds terrible, but for some reason it's just not a me thing. Okay. I've worked with some pretty volatile kids in my day, and I was 100% okay with them beating me, biting me, kicking me, doing whatever. But the second they started crying, I had no idea what to do. And I said, no, I'm not dealing with that. Probably says something. Who cares? We don't need to go down that road. No. There's always going to be a gap between what a computer algorithm thinks about you and what you think about you. Those two are never going to line up properly. And they probably, in all likelihood, won't line up with what you want to end up doing either. That is when things get to be more problematic because you're busy sitting there scrolling, whatever, and you're like, oh, unconsciously, obviously, the algorithm thinks that all I'm good for is cleaning porter potties. All right, well, I guess that's the key. I know that's really weird, but
Wait, that's not an odd example. Are
I
there
don't know, but maybe you have a desire to go and be, I don't know, some famous painter or some shit. Who knows? Maybe your only goal in cleaning porter potties at the current moment in time is to own the porter potty company. I don't know.
well, if it's me, I would like billions and billions and billions of dollars. My phone is sitting right there. Give me the money. That's what I would like.
Right, but it doesn't always work that way, and it's just it's very it's difficult to try and navigate. It's not helping us to navigate the 21st century, it's just making it more difficult. And then on top of that, all of this stuff compounds because it's operating in multiple different environments. The digital spaces operate at work, they operate at home, and so you never get that full compartmentalization of this is work life, this is home life. It's constantly bleeding because our attention shifts to the phone. It goes back to what is going on. Um, those things that we pay attention to are actively playing a role in what it is that we are going to think about next,
Yeah.
rather than some of the things that are pounding us in the background going, hey man, we need to take a look about this. Okay. You owe $3 million to the government and they're coming for their money. And you're like, what the fuck? No, sorry. Let
It's the algorithm. See, we don't trust the algorithm. Going
right,
back to
right, exactly.
full circle, it's all making sense.
It makes no difference because our open loops, the whole point in that is our open loops just aren't getting closed. We know that they're open because they will bang at us and let us know that it's coming. But we won't be able to close them because rather than dealing with them, we're just going to go straight to the algorithm and let the algorithm decide what it is that we go ahead and focus on next. And it's not the algorithm's fault. It is entirely ours. Why? Because we picked up the fucking phone in the first place. Rather than sitting with it, we picked up the phone to go ahead and say, you know what? I'm going to go ahead and scroll Instagram or TikTok or YouTube or whatever it is, rather than deal with what it is that is currently going on. Rather than maybe sit and get quiet enough to hear what it is that deep down myself is desperately screaming for. And this isn't a willpower problem. It's not like you can outwill yourself to just mystically make it happen. It doesn't work that way because especially with digital stuff, it's already habitual. The phone is a habit.
Oh yeah.
The workspaces, those are built in fast.
Um, it it's insane how growing up with that phone and things like that, and then certain things that I do now that are totally ingrained in me, and then having my siblings who are a few years younger than me, who did grow up and seeing how that's also ingrained in their life, and there are just and even my parents. My dad is a fucking boomer by all means, and he has man boy almost 45 years of his entire life not having a personal a cell phone, and then there are certain things that just have become ingrained in us the last 15 years, I want to say, that
Mhm.
is just that I can't say it's necessarily our fault either. It's just how society has devolved or evolved, which way you want to look at it, has changed. They're
It's just
changed.
changed. Yeah, it's just shifted. All of these things are just shifting. This is why I say blaming an algorithm is silly because you can't blame a
You can't,
non-sentient
yeah, you
entity.
can't blame a nonsense.
But
Does the non-sentient thing is it not great and provides wrong information and therefore can harm you? Yes, but that's a step removed from the situation itself.
we know that.
Well, some of us know that there are stupid people out here in the world.
I no, 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 no. At this point, we know that. It is major news headlines all over the place. The algorithm this,
I'm not disagreeing with you, but there are still stupid people.
but that's not
You are giving too much people credit.
that is willful ignorance at that point in time. That's not stupidity. That's just I'm not going to pay attention to it because I would prefer the relief that the algorithm brings rather than accepting the responsibility. And that's what we are all about is having that agency, having that awareness to be able to say, bam, this is what happens. This is the mechanism that keeps stopping me from getting to X or getting to Y, or even at that, it's what's interfering with this part of my life. And maybe it's not causing you a severe detriment, but it's just something that you want to change. If you don't know the mechanism, how is it that you begin to go about and bring about any lasting, substantial change? It doesn't happen. We must have the awareness and the agency to be able to say, bam, this is what I'm doing. This is how the mechanism that these two on the internet described to us. It's not that digital life is bad. It's not that the algorithm is out to get us. Well, whatever. Maybe. It's not that hold on. It's not out to get you. It's out to produce money. That's it. It's not out to get you. It's not like they're coming and they're like, Carlos, fuck you. I'm going to take you down with
You
my
know,
algorithm. No, that's not happening.
that part I agree. I think it's the problem is it is out to make money, and the problem is the way to make
Right.
money is purely to be against you. So so that it kind of has to,
But
but
if
inherently,
you
yes,
have a
it's
choice in
not
all of this,
against people specifically. It is to make money, and the way to make money is just a weird, corrupted way that does end up harming people.
well, it's providing you with the distraction with which you have desperately been looking for. And again, there's a big difference between willfully ignorant and agency. Willfully ignorant, they both kind of exist over here. I'd say ignorance probably a little bit closer. Willfully ignorant, step back. But once you're not ignorant of that anymore, again, that's why we do this, because no longer ignorant, that eliminates that possibility. So you're either willfully ignorant or you're working your way towards agency. And that's wonderful. And so I guess I think that that's a perfect place to kind of go, but I will leave with just one reflection prompt. What is the version of you that is absolutely idealized? What is it that you want more than anything? And maybe it is just like, I just want to work 20 hours a week and come home, or 40 hours a week, come home and sit on the couch and watch TV. That's definitely those are valid. Any of them are valid. I don't care if you want to be the president of the United States or you want to be a couch surfing hobo. It makes no difference. Hey, dude, that one, hey, that was algorithm approved. Okay.
Those what literally couch surfing hobos. I aspire for better, a little better, do
Why
better.
not? Why? That's what they want. It's okay. It's okay.
He
But
agrees with that. I disagree with that.
that's fine. You're allowed to disagree with it. Doesn't make you right. No, I'm just
No, no, it makes me right.
All right. So to sum up our reflection prompt that we've gotten, so kindly distracted from what is the idealized version of you? And what can you do over the next week to just sit with it and figure it out? I think that's the best one that I like that one. Yeah.
That's where we'll leave it for today.
You don't need to do anything with it right now.
Each episode this season will end with a question worth carrying.
Not an answer, just a place to look.
If this is your first time here, you're welcome to follow the show. New episodes drop weekly.
And if you want to go deeper, find us at theactive.com.
We'll be back next week.
Until then, notice what you're already designing your field.
And whether that's by choice.